as a human, what are we giving to the world? What kind of energy are we putting out? Are we staying curious?
And your quiet courage is
Yeah.
how you do that. And you just described that.
All right. Hello, Liz.
Hi, Lee.
How are you?
Couldn't be better.
Don't we look cute?
Yeah, we do. You want to talk
Okay.
about it right off?
Yeah, right off.
Yeah.
Right off. So if you're not watching, you can flip on YouTube and see that we have matching embroidered sweaters. You go
They
with
say
yours
different
first.
things. Well, first of all,
Tell me all about
these are
it.
from Lingua Franca.
Oh my gosh.
Who
Way to go.
who is just a genius in like allowing women and men, if they want to, I guess men could do it
Sure.
too, express their needs. So we work needs, thoughts, feelings, emotions. I was in a thing at a meeting, and I was speaking to a group of women, and I was trying to explain a point. And so I finally just in exasperation went, the status quo is for losers. And I went, ding, ding, ding. There's my shirt. There's my Lingua Franca shirt. So I went to the lady and she just sent this.
So tell me what that means.
That exact status quo is for losers. Like, we
How does
live
that
on the edge.
translate to our
Hillary shooting
lives?
method. We live on the edge. Liz and Lee, we live on the edge. You guys out there, you're going to live on the edge because the status quo is going to take you down every time. If you start to just pretend that things are fine and you don't have to address shit, then you are going to go down in flames. So the status quo is for losers. Just saying.
Hey. Okay.
Tell me about yours.
Nice. So mine says, pressure is a privilege. So that was not unlike yours, my bright idea that just comes popping out of my mouth. This is a quote by the great, your one and only Billie Jean King, because at this event where we got these sweaters, she was the speaker. And so they did a run of her favorite quote, pressure is a privilege. To reiterate, Lingua Franca is out of New York. It's a national, international female-run company by a wonderful woman named Rochelle, who we did not get to meet at this event, but we did meet her team. We will show next week the other shirts that we got, which is a
really
surprise.
Cool. Yeah.
But they have already made sweaters with different terms, quotes, words, and do customization. So these are ours, and I just love how this quote comes from a great athlete, recognizing that pressure can either take you down or you can use it to catapult you further along in whatever track that you are on. So when you're having those moments where pressure, overwhelm, it all feels too much, it's nice to look back in that and flip and reframe that to what a privilege it is that you have the opportunity to already be where you are and see where you can go.
And I wouldn't say look back at it, but when you're under pressure and it's and the heat is intense, then you just flip it right then. I mean, you can either fold and lose, or you can step up and do your best and give it your best shot. And certainly Billie Jean King is that example. So I love both of these shirts.
I know.
And they kind of come on the same vibration,
Absolutely.
Just living to your highest place, living in your highest vibration, and recognizing that you're much greater than you even imagine, which we all know, or I think that people's biggest fear is, of course, not that they are not powerful enough, but they are super powerful, and that if they actually embrace their own power, it would terrify the shit out of them. So, yeah, this is what kind of we're about.
Right. And I know that we have taken the status quo and the pressure sometimes further than some people are comfortable. And it's not about doing what anybody else does, but it's about, you always train people in baby steps. When you need to make changes in your life for your mental or physical health, a baby step is always a great way to start rather than, jumping off the cliff.
Flipping the tables.
Yeah. I mean, the last or the first line, a little quote in your first book was, something about going to the edge, and you can either jump off or you can choose to have wings to fly.
You can either, or have the faith that you've got wings to fly. And that is the life of a courageous person. And I don't think that some of us are courageous and some of us are not. We are all courageous. It's whether we have the courage to step into that place where we can be super people, super individuals. And until we do that, you're in your status quo generally. And your status quo is not where you fly. It's not even where you survive. It's not even, you barely survive. it's kind of where you go to die. And if you go, and I'm good, and you stop, whether it's whether it's a project you're doing or it's a life you're living, you're being mediocre, which is death. You know?
And we're different the way you and I
Yeah.
kind of approach everything. Whereas you might go to that cliff and just jump off and go, I'm not afraid, I'll fly. I kind of walk up and look over the edge, but
Which is wise.
I can get there.
That's wise.
Right. Because sometimes the wings aren't ready. And it's not about going as far as being as successful as Billie Jean King was, for example, or even you. It's about for yourself. Even it's not what you necessarily have to show for it, like the things that you've accomplished that are just magnanimous. It's how you're feeling as a human. What are we giving to the world? What kind of energy are we putting out? Are we staying curious?
And your quiet courage is how you do that. And you just described that. It's not the courage that shouts out to everyone, look what I'm doing, but the quiet courage of gently owning and supremely strongly owning your own place in this world, and with courage living it. And that is the hardest thing we do, because we have every reason put on us at birth to live in the status quo, to live beneath who we really are. And we get to talk about this, I guess, because in small ways we have made steps toward our real selves. I mean, authenticity is really overused, but it's also underdone.
Still real.
It's underdone. I mean, people talk about wanting to be authentic, and I'm just trying to find my authentic self. There's a lot of talk, and then there's the doing of it. And the doing of it is that quiet courage that sometimes does need to shout, but sometimes it's just making that quiet decision that no longer will you listen to the noise of what others say is correct for you, but you will listen to your heart and your gut.
And I think we fall into that trap because status quo is not always the way we're living our life, but where we're living the life that we're supposed to live, or following this path that we think has been put upon us. And you just go with that flow, that status quo, because you don't know any better. You feel like you're stepping outside of the line.
You're afraid to listen
to your internal.
It's not here. It's heart. It's feeling. When we can get outside of our head and step away from the physical and feel our spirit that literally surrounds us, and kind of feel that, then the head can no longer run the show. The head needs to be there. The mind needs to be there, the brain. But the heart feelings of life are the ones that, when you have a knowing, you don't have to always be able to explain it. And especially, you never have to make an excuse for it. It's just your feeling. And it's not up to you to make other people understand that feeling.
That's right.
It's up to you to live it courageously and kindly toward making sure whatever you're doing is also on the higher vibration of kindness, which is higher and love.
Right. And a lot of us who seek approval live in that way.
We all do. Yeah.
Right. Of not wanting to disappoint, of doing the shoulds.
Yeah.
I can't remember what you said now that I was going to say. That's not as easily done as said.
No, it's not. And it's interesting because I feel sometimes like, oh gosh, I do. And I think we should all pat ourselves on the back when we make small changes in our life. And sometimes in our case, large changes. But the better you get at it, the more you practice it, this courageous life, the more the hits come at you. So you don't reach that pinnacle and go, and now I'm courageous all the time. I mean, some of the most menial things, I'm just like, oh God, I can't handle this,
Right.
So yeah, it's, and that's what makes life so fascinating and interesting. And knowing that the pain that's coming at you is your greatest, generally where your humble, vulnerable lessons are to be had and learned and felt. And mine's all feeling, so. What made me folding my hands over my status quo is for losing. Yeah.
Right. And that's to understand that a lot of mine is thinking. And so you start in the heart, the head is the second one. Sometimes I'm in the head. The heart's always there, but it's just sometimes we all have a leading pull.
We have a
and to
loud voice in there
play-
that keeps playing those
Right.
tapes that say,
and to play that. And, we can't say either that, what we've done as far as us becoming a couple, that it's just like, we were brave, it happened, now we're good. I mean, we have to be
Constant.
clear that is ongoing, a long process. And
It's an interesting process. And the reason we even bring it up so often is because it is still a grate on society. And we get asked all the time. And I know that we went publicly and we said we were going to get married, but we have been talking. Can I go there?
Sure.
Because we've been talking about this a lot. I mean, just the two of us, about marriage and the importance or the unimportance. We're trying to weigh it out. And yeah, of course, we probably have, and I suppose we could have some ceremony where we do the thing where we say we love each other forever, because we say that all the time. But the thing that destroys my version of marriage in my heart, in my head, is the fact that it hinges on who's in power. And, meaning government. We said a few podcasts back that the government has a lot of interest in people being married. Well, great. If you're heterosexual, they are thrilled over that. But if you're not heterosexual, you're in and out of popularity. So one state that might be legal, one state it might. One president might come in and go, absolutely no more, homosexual marriage, for a better word. I can't come up with all the other taglines. But that really pisses me off. I'm like, I'm not going to be at somebody's whim. I'm not going to love you at a whim.
Right.
I'm going to love you in a committed way, solidly, no matter what a government or a system of government decides for me.
Sure.
And they're not going to decide for me. That's the other shirt I have. It says, I decide. So yeah, we've been talking about that a lot.
Well, and I think the question goes back to when people see that there's a proposal, what people are used to is a marriage after. So I think the question is like, well then,
Liz, get off your ass and do it.
No, it's not. That's whatever word's in your head.
Yeah, it is in my head.
So it is though, if you, air quotes, finally said, okay, I'm going to do this, especially on national television, and ask you to marry me, then it's just kind of like people, I'm good.
Like when's that going to happen?
Yeah,
right.
they want
Could you get off your ass and do it already?
Ending, the never ending story. Not the never ending story. This is the never ending story. The happily ever after.
Yes.
People want to see happiness and love and
people love a
romanticize.
story. And I get it. I love a story. Who's not watching Bridgerton, for God's sakes? I mean, I love love. And I think this story is a good story. We have a good story. I think there's a lot of people that love each other that have great stories, and it's not always about their marriage, but commitment is in itself such a great love affirmation.
And I was going to say, it doesn't have to be a story, right? Life is not a fairy tale, a fable. It is real, and it doesn't have to end one way or another to make it successful.
Correct.
Just to your point, commitment and love and partnership is everything. We've said this multiple times too. We're not necessarily, we are starting a life together. We already have, but we're not 20 and preparing for a life ahead, and who knows where that goes. And I know that we're all wrapped up in that story. I mean, I've spoken to a friend recently who is getting divorced, and everybody's story is different, but I've heard multiple versions of this where it's like, even if the dissolution of that marriage and partnership didn't work, what sometimes for people is more heart-wrenching is the plan that you had for your life.
Right.
The thought of marriage, and if so, children, and then X, Y, Z.
The expectation you had going into a union and having it shattered. And I was actually on that conversation with you, and that's devastating.
Right.
And how is it possible to live on an edge where, okay, one day your husband or wife comes home and says, and I'm done. And that happens sometimes. And it happened to someone we were talking to, and it found her on her heels and backward and upside down and terrified as anyone would have been, as I would have been. And there is no answer except to know that there is always there's always something that's going to knock you back on your heels. And until you've got your feet planted solidly into the ground, and literally I use a visual of a tree with roots, then you can't be completely knocked over. You can be knocked down, but you can't be knocked out.
Well, I've always loved that analogy, and even in its most basic comparison to your workout.
Yeah.
And Pilates, if you look at our town, our neighborhood, the old trees are gorgeous, and it is that point that when they're rooted down and the wind blows, you see them fully moving side to side, but they're not falling over. It's about having your feet firmly planted in the ground, but also being flexible. Right. We talk about the spine and the core as a very physical
That's a good point.
metaphor of that moving back and forth. I mean, if you fall over and you literally don't have some fluidity to
You'll break.
catch yourself and engage your core, you're going to break. But if you fall down and get back up, that is that same analogy in time and space of physicality and what's happening to us over and over again in our lives. We're going to over and over and over that wind
get knocked down. We're going to get knocked over. We're going to get knocked and have to come up with ideas that we never thought we had to have. Like, just life is that. The status quo
is for losers.
Is not, but the status quo is not really real. It's not real. And for us to believe that is real, that's when I say it's for losers, because it's the status quo is that life is a continual change. And I've been knocked off my feet so many times I can't imagine, I can't remember all of them, but I'm always shocked that I'm shocked again.
Sure.
It's like, how are you still shocked at this? Right.
Right.
Because we are vulnerable human beings. And that's what I love about you. And I love about the people we have in our lives. I think one of the keys is being vulnerable with someone else. And I struggle with that because when you're vulnerable with somebody else, you're asking them to help you in a way, and that gives them strength. That gives them a connection to you. And you ask me a lot, and I need to ask you more because I don't know. I'm not very good at that.
What?
Being vulnerable.
Right. And you've lived yourself and pride yourself on it. And it is your personality and your temperament of having kind of a shield of armor to walk around with this. And it doesn't mean you're not feeling, and it doesn't mean you don't get...
I'm a bundle of feelings.
Hit by those arrows.
But I know where my shield is, and I know when to put it on.
Sure.
Right. And that helps.
Well, and you've been very vulnerable with me. And I appreciate that. And I think that's where we always help each other out, as we bring a real strength that the other person doesn't necessarily have, which is helpful. And going back to that continued getting knocked over and over and over, you're going to feel different every time. And I'm not going to say that it's always going to be great. It's just what you choose to do with it.
Right.
Because there's so much out of our control.
Everything's out of our control.
And even
except our reaction is our only thing.
Exactly. And even if, it's a divorce or a job or a death or a sickness, like, they're gonna keep coming, and one's not better than the other.
Right.
And you just can't assume it's gonna work out in some perfect path. So it doesn't mean to live in fear. It's to live.
It means to lean into the pain. Where did I write that recently? I was writing a thing about that.
I don't know. You are very...
I was writing it in my...
quotey lately.
In my silly blog that you go, oh, you're going to talk about your blog
again.
Don't
call it silly.
But I did write it in my blog. It was like, it's called leaning into your fear, leaning into your pain. It's where you find it's where you find the stuff that needs to be healed. And
but how do you do that?
By not being afraid to see it clearly. And that's
what do you mean? Keep going.
Okay.
Because I think I'm listening to you.
Okay. I'm going to tell you.
And other people are listening to you. Okay. And you have a lot to say.
I do.
But people want more. People don't just want the platitudes and to lean into it and status quo is for losers. Like, what have you experienced? What do you know? What are the steps?
Well, to lean into pain means to, first of all, if it was me, when I was deciding to end a marriage, say, I leaned into the accountability of who I was, because I was not being accountable. I leaned into the pain of who I was, how I was no longer feeling comfortable playing a part, that I had to be warts and all, open, at least to me, not to anybody else. I mean, first of all, you got to get into you. So I was embarrassed and humiliated to even lean into me and to go, you fucking liar. I mean, you're lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself, right? So lean into my own pain was to admit that I was lying to myself, that I was living inauthentically while I was preaching authenticity.
Yeah.
And once I did that, and then I said, what? And then you go, I don't know what I mean. Okay, I don't know what I mean. So what I did then was go, what I have to do is I have to end my marriage. And that was super hard because there was not a lack of love. There was not a lack of respect. There was a lack of secure being married. There was a lack of, I'll never talk about my ex-husband and I, but we had lost our way, and we lost our way. We lost ourselves as a couple, and we could not get it back. Life's spears and arrows had hit their mark, and we had allowed that, both of us, but I can only speak for me. I had allowed it to stay in my heart and take me apart. So I had to separate. I had to get that out for me personally. And then when my heart opened to me, to being
more vulnerable,
and to being, who am I? Like, what kind of jerk am I that I've been not lying, I guess lying to myself about who I was. I was not this perfect wife. I was not this perfect leader in the community that told everyone to be powerful and, own your own space. I was not owning my space. So I had to get honest about that. And then I had to get honest when I fell for you. And that was probably the most fearful. That was more fearful than the divorce.
Sure. It was so
more fearful.
outside of what you were expecting and had ever experienced before.
Yeah.
And, taking the terms judgment, taking the term fault away from any of those scenarios, whatever it is we're talking about, and knowing even if you felt that the pain, the thing was done to you, which is fine, it's only going to help you come to the other side of that to go, let's get real about myself.
Yeah.
What role did I have in this? Even if it was just how you were treating your own self.
Just and we think it's, if you're not treating yourself well, you can't possibly treat other people authentically well. Like, I know it blew people's minds about me and Aubrey separating and getting a divorce, especially my family. But it then, when you own your vibration, and that vibration raises when you take it out of the lower realms that keep you in the status quo of just let's get along until we die, because then everybody will think we're great. But we go, you know what? We're greater than that. Both of us were greater than that. So we raised both of our levels of vibration, meaning we became ourselves. And that gave the license to the people that were around us, the same license. Now, it doesn't mean that it wasn't painful. Doesn't mean that. We're not about pain. We're about doing the best we can for each other, and first for yourself, then for each other.
And isn't that interesting how we are in humanity?
Yeah.
Is that we're usually, sometimes, however, you want to put on that, wanting it to look good for everybody else. Our lives, our relationships.
I still do. What do you think we do on Instagram?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at my pretty
picture.
picture.
The most important things in our life that a lot of times it's those external things that we want for everybody to think that it all looks good.
Leaning into your pain is leaning into because all your pain is coming from you. It's not what somebody has just done to you. He might have left you for another woman, but that pain is your reaction to what's going on. Then there's the judgment, and that's all there, and that's for the court system. But the pain is, where am I going to live with it? How am I going to react to this? Where's my strength here? And your strength is always in your vulnerability. And it's always if you feel the pain and you go into the pain and you find that place, it's where you open up, you admit it, and you can come out fighting. You can come out strong. but fighting for yourself is the most important thing.
Yeah. And there's not, let's take it down from life's worst situations
Okay.
and just talk about, yeah, life is going great. Everybody's good. I'm doing good. And look at yourself in that status quo when not necessarily anything has thrown your life off the rails,
Right.
but that you are just riding the rails. Take a minute to look and see, is there status quo any of this that I can be not recover from a bad situation, but I'm in a good situation. How can I do more? I hate saying that. Not
Or
do more. How can my energy, share that more with other people around me? How can I step out of my status quo in order to do good for the world? So it's not just how do I recover from this status quo and move on with my life. It's how, when I think it's all easy and good, can I challenge myself a little bit to spice it up?
Yeah.
For growth.
Or just be present. Sorry to say that, but it's sort of like
No,
when you're
definitely.
rolling
Be in
along,
it.
when you're rolling
Right.
along the tracks and things are going really well. I mean, wow.
Enjoy it.
First of all, celebrate
Right.
really big and be present with it and take that moment in that moment and be really present in it. I think you really gain huge strength and definitely good vibration off of that one.
Right. And in your friend groups and
Yeah.
your support systems, it's taking those times to be there
Right.
for the other people who are on that down part of the roller coaster and whatnot. And all the people I know are beautiful at that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And speaking of that level of friend groups, I'm always editing, not like dropping friends, but noticing when somebody is. I like to try to help everyone. I mean, anybody that walks in my door at Hilliard Studio Method, I don't care where you're vibrating. I'm going to be there for you, period, end of story. But I'm not going to take that home with me and let that affect me. So if you got really close people that are in your life that are you really, really vibrating at a lower level, meaning they're bringing you down, as in personally, then address that with those people. And if you can't address that and say, here's what I love about you, here's what I need from you, then it's time to edit some of that stuff out. And that's not a mean thing. That is a life thing.
right.
I think, don't you? I mean,
Absolutely. And it's just a fact. We go through different stages in our lives of wherever you're cycling. Is it based around work? Is it based around your kids and their friends? All of that changes a lot during life. And it doesn't mean that you can go apart and have to stay apart forever.
Right.
There's those comebacks, those circle backs that you might find yourself connected again.
I was at Reese. Can I do a real quick story about my recent last week? So I was invited.
Oh, good.
I was invited to go to I played basketball.
Hang on. I would like to first start with, I was invited to as the guest of honor.
No, I was not.
Exactly. That's what it sounded like.
No.
You and your girlfriend.
Okay, me and my girlfriends, but I didn't organize it. So I got
Right.
the call. I got the call saying, "Hey, we're all going to get together in Winston-Salem,
This
of all
is your
places."
high school
This is
friend
my
group.
high school friend group, most of which played basketball with me. A couple of them were just buddies that didn't. But it was sort of about 4 or 5 of us that were like, athletes together. We had that connection. Anywho, we got together and I thought, what is this going to be like? We're going to go to Winston-Salem for 48 hours. We're going to ride around in a van and go to the Yadkin Valley and drink wine. Okay. First of all, I'm like, Yadkin Valley wine? How do these two go together? And so I was like, all right, let's go. But I was really not sure what to anticipate because me being 70, I'm not used to being around by people my age. I'm just not.
First of all,
I'm just
what
not.
do 70-year-olds talk about?
Yeah, what are we going to talk about? What is this going to be like? I haven't seen some of them in 40 years, right?
That's incredible.
And then I was like laughing, going, we should just all send our bios to each other so we get through that.
Get past that.
Because there's a lot that's happened to me in the last few years and them as well. But anyway, the bottom line of this is these are people that I knew that knew me inside and out. I knew them inside out. I still remember their phone numbers. I know their address. I know everything about them. And after we got through the initial wow, 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 Liz, all those things. Oh my God, that's a friend group. Those are true
Yeah.
friends that I haven't talked to in what, 40 years, 30
Mhm.
years, something like that. And so it's not that if you go away from a friend for a while, you're not over.
That's
It's
right.
not over. Sometimes you just need, for whatever reasons, physical reasons, they're edited out of your life. But I love that. I'm still kind of glowing over what a great time that was and how
Aw.
much I really love those women. And they've also aged really well.
Everybody looks great.
Everybody looks really good. Yeah.
That's really good. I mean, you are all very lucky to
Yeah.
be where you are and to still have each
They're
other
all happy.
in your lives. And I appreciate the person
Yeah.
who spearheaded that to go, let's do it and
Yeah.
get
Way
together.
to go, Jan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think about Yadkin Valley wines?
Okay. Well, first of all, Yadkin Valley needs about 100 more years of seasoning. But we did. I wish
You
I
said it
remember
was
all
beautiful.
the names. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's worth going to ride around that area. We went to Shelton. You guys know Jennifer Shelton, who's one of our trainers and all that. She's great. They have Shelton Vineyards. They have the best place to go to lunch.
Ah, got
So
it.
we went to lunch at Shelton Vineyards. Delicious.
Oh, good.
I think I had a sip of a Sauvignon Blanc that was pretty good,
Yeah.
And then we went to, oh God, me and names of things.
Whatever, like three,
But
four
or
more?
four. But there was two. The two at the end, which one was Italian, Botello or something.
Uh-huh.
I'll look it up and I'll put it in the show notes. And then the very last one, we were looking over a mountain range. It
Wow.
was gorgeous. And the wine, give it a few more
foothills.
years. I mean, California wines weren't good right off the bat, but right now they're drinkable. I didn't bring any home because I'm a little, and as Jan put it, none of us are really wine snobs. I'm like, except for me. So I didn't bring any home, but it was really, really good and so enjoyable and worth a day with your friends.
I love that.
So
I love that. And you'll have a plan to do it again.
we are
right?
going to do it. We're not necessarily going to go to the Yadkin Valley wineries.
New
We're
location.
But we're going to do.
You were just trying to find
We're going to do it again
essential-
next year.
Okay, good.
We're going to do it next year, and I don't know where we're going to go. It doesn't matter. We could be in
That's
a
right.
room, but we are active. It's funny. Everybody's pretty healthy and happening.
There it is. Little basketball stars.
Yeah, you get
the
yourself
longevity.
playing some basketball young. You age well, I guess. I don't know.
Guess that's the key after all this time. No, I think the key is written across your chest. Status quo is for losers.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, pressure is a privilege.
Yes,
And so we're going to walk ourselves around with these
we
today.
are. And here it is at the beginning of summer, and we are in cashmere sweaters.
I'm really hot.
I know, me too. But
Always
we
hot when
wanted to
we
wear them
record.
so bad. And
know.
it is. I mean, you're rolling into summer. I'm so excited. We got trips coming. You guys have got trips coming. We just started a great thing at the studio. Tell me
Yeah,
about
I
that.
will say, because this will come out end of May
Mm-hmm.
and you have a few weeks yet to buy this, but we have a Zoom 2-month unlimited package. So Zoom is the package where you sign up for a class that's happening in studio.
In studio.
You get it via Zoom real time. You can hop on your square and work out with us and I can see you and wave. Or you can get the link and you have 24 hours to do it. So it's really that good in between accountability. So $250 for 2 months. So
That
I know
was
a
me,
lot
by
of
the way.
you-
They were all like, let's do it for this. I'm like, let's throw
throw 'em
them
a
let's
deal.
throw them a real bone. Let's do
Thanks,
the $250. I think that's a deal for
It
2
is a deal.
months.
So you can buy it now. It starts the minute you buy it, that 2-month window. It ends the minute that 2-month window is done. You can buy it until June 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, everything else is on the website. Regular classes streaming,
Right.
$30 a month.
Yep.
That's a deal
Yep.
to get thousands of
How many
workouts
thousands?
whenever you want.
I was trying to tell my high school girlfriends that. I couldn't remember. How many, do we
Well, we
know?
release 2 a week every week. So
But we
I
have-
don't know now.
like
Tons.
25,000 minutes or 60,000 or a billion.
You're just
Let's
making
go
it.
with a billion.
Let's go. We definitely
We got
have
a billion minutes of work. It's really
We probably
and truly-
haven't lived a
We have
billion
everything
minutes.
from the time when Clary and I were back in the studio doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes beginner ones to just abs, just legs, just arms. We have all that. And then the live classes too. I think it's a deal.
It's a deal. It's a deal. Life's a deal.
It's a deal. So, and you guys, if you're interested in us coming to your city, we are still on the move. Winston-Salem's a
Always.
year old now.
Congrats.
And we're excited to be talking to maybe one or two more. But this is a great workout. And that's the other thing I did was in Winston was teach a class in there.
Oh, yeah.
Out there. I had a blast.
Right.
That crowd was really fun.
Right. So we're really on the move in
Mm-hmm.
several different ways. Number one, we can come to your city and do a pop-up class. Number 2, we can come to your city and you can open a studio and we'll help you with that. Number 3 is this, we got these at a corporate event. So if you have a corporation, maybe not in the summer that's doing stuff, but if you have something coming up in
I'll
the
do
fall,
it in the summer.
well, we'll do it anytime. I'm just saying, I don't
we'll
know
be
how
in
many
France,
events.
so,
Yeah. But anyway, if you're a corporation focusing on wellness or would like to start focusing on wellness, we're your crew.
We're your people. We would, it's a lot of fun. And so,
Yes.
we'd love to come. But anywho, it is time to go to the beach, to have some fun, to do your vacation time, take us with you. And this has been fun.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Well done. Okay.
All right, we're done?
Shake it.
Yeah, we look good. We look good. All right.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to us today, wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you can now find our podcast on YouTube.
Yeah. If you liked it, please share, rate, and review. We love 5 stars. And we hope you'll work out with us online or in studio at HilliardStudioMethod.com.